What if I told you there was a skill, one within your grasp, that could completely reshape how you communicate, strengthen your relationships, and enhance your personal growth? Imagine a force so subtle, yet so profound, that it can command respect without a single word, resolve conflicts with poise, and deepen connections with others on a level you never thought possible. Wouldn't you want to understand it, master it, and let it transform your life? That skill is silence, a practice as old as time and as powerful as action. Let's face it, we live in a world that glorifies noise. Everyone has something to say. Social media thrives on opinions, debates, and commentary. Conversations often feel like competitions, with people rushing to speak rather than taking the time to listen. And yet, amidst all this chaos, there lies a simple, often overlooked truth. Silence can be the loudest and most impactful voice in the room. Have you ever wondered why certain individuals, without saying much, can influence a room full of people? Why some leaders, in moments of stillness, seem to command more attention than others who are shouting? These people are not just silent, they are intentional. They understand the art of using silence as a tool for clarity, influence, and inner strength. But here's the kicker. Many of us misunderstand silence. We see it as weakness, passivity, or even awkwardness. That's a mistake. Silence is not about retreating, it's about advancing strategically. It's about creating space for yourself, for others, and for understanding. It's about mastering the art of pausing, listening, and acting with purpose. In this video, we'll dive deep into 8 transformative ways silence can speak louder than words. Each of these concepts is rooted in ancient wisdom, particularly Stoicism, which teaches us to embrace silence as a means to cultivate inner strength and navigate life's challenges with grace. These principles will challenge the way you think, inspire you to take control of your communication, and ultimately help you build stronger Stoic relationships. As we go through each part, I want you to ask yourself, am I using silence effectively in my life? Could I be saying less, listening more, and acting with greater intention? The answers might surprise you, and they might just change everything. So, let's begin. 1. Silence as a reflection of inner strength. When was the last time you truly sat in silence, not just without speaking, but without the noise of your thoughts taking over? Can you recall a moment when you resisted the urge to defend yourself, to argue, or to fill an awkward pause with words? If you haven't, you're not alone. Most of us are uncomfortable with silence because we associate it with vulnerability. But what if I told you silence is the ultimate display of strength? Think about the times when you've witnessed someone remain calm and composed during chaos. What impression did they leave? Perhaps you admired their self-control, their unshakable presence, or their ability to stay centered while others were unraveling. That's the power of silence. It doesn't shout, "Look at me." It simply says, "I am here, fully present and in control." Silence is not just the absence of noise, it's the presence of mastery. It's about knowing that your value is not tied to how much you say, but how much you understand. In Stoicism, one of the core teachings is the idea that you cannot control external events, but you can control your reactions to them. Silence is the first step in mastering that reaction. When you pause instead of reacting impulsively, you create space to choose your response. And in that space lies your power. Have you ever argued with someone who remained calm while you became increasingly agitated? It's frustrating, isn't it? That's because silence disrupts the flow of negativity. It denies the other person the satisfaction of drawing you into their emotional storm. Instead, it forces them to confront their own behavior. This is especially true in Stoic relationships, where silence can be a way of showing respect and creating room for mutual understanding. But let's be clear. Silence is not passivity. It's not about avoiding confrontation or letting people walk all over you. It's about choosing your battles and responding when it truly matters. When you stay silent, you're not ignoring the situation, you're asserting control over it. You're saying, "I will not let this dictate my emotions or my actions." Think about the great leaders throughout history. They were not the ones who spoke the loudest or the most often. They were the ones who chose their words carefully and allowed their actions to do the talking. Whether it was Marcus Aurelius writing his meditations in quiet reflection or modern leaders who use pauses to command attention, silence has always been a mark of wisdom and authority. So how can you start using silence to reflect inner strength in your own life? Start small. The next time you feel the urge to jump into a conversation, pause. Count to 3 before you speak. If you're in an argument, resist the temptation to respond immediately. Instead, take a deep breath and ask yourself, is what I'm about to say necessary? Is it helpful? Or am I just reacting emotionally? As you practice this, you'll notice something remarkable. People will start to see you differently. They'll respect your composure and take your words more seriously because they'll know you don't speak without intention. You'll also notice a change within yourself, greater self-confidence, a sense of calm, and the ability to navigate even the most challenging situations with grace. Silence is your ally, your shield, and your compass. It grounds you in the present moment and reminds you that true power comes not from controlling others, but from mastering yourself. Are you ready to let your silence speak louder than your words? Because once you do, you'll realize you've unlocked a strength that no one can take away from you. 2. The psychological effects of silence on others. Have you ever walked into a room and felt the presence of someone before they even spoke? There's something captivating about a person who doesn't immediately fill the air with words, who instead allows their presence and silence to do the talking. Silence, when used intentionally, can be one of the most powerful tools to influence others and shape how they perceive you. Let's consider this. Why does silence have such a profound psychological impact? In a world where everyone is clamoring for attention, silence becomes a rarity. It forces people to pause, notice, and reflect. Silence draws attention not by demanding it, but by creating a void that others feel compelled to fill. That's the paradox. Silence isn't empty, it's magnetic. When you choose silence, you are, in essence, giving others space. You're allowing them to process, to think, and to reveal more than they would if you were dominating the conversation. But here's the key. Silence must be deliberate. It's not about being passive or disengaged. It's about being present and intentional. So how does this work in practice? Picture a situation where you're in a discussion, perhaps a disagreement, and emotions are running high. Most people's instinct is to jump in, defend themselves, or retaliate. But what if you stayed silent instead? What if you simply listened, maintaining eye contact, and allowed the other person to fully express themselves? How do you think they would react? Chances are, they'd start to second-guess their words. They'd become more aware of what they're saying, because your silence signals that you're truly paying attention. Silence creates a psychological mirror, reflecting their words and actions back at them. In Stoicism, this practice aligns with the idea of self-restraint and observation. By staying silent, you're not just avoiding unnecessary conflict, you're also giving the other person a chance to reflect on their own behavior. Now, let's think about the flip side, how silence affects the person who wields it. When you choose silence, you're taking control of the narrative. You're no longer reacting impulsively. Instead, you're responding with purpose. This shift in mindset has a profound psychological effect on you as well. It boosts your confidence because you're not relying on external validation. You're rooted in your own strength. Let's look at an example. Have you ever been in a meeting where someone paused before answering a question? That pause, those few seconds of silence, can feel like an eternity. But what's really happening is that the person is taking the time to think, to choose their words carefully. That silence signals to everyone in the room that their response will be thoughtful and deliberate. It's a power move, and it works because silence builds anticipation. You can use the same technique in your own life. Whether you're speaking to a boss, a friend, or a stranger, a well-placed pause can elevate the weight of your words. People will start to associate you with thoughtfulness and credibility. They'll listen more intently, not just to what you say, but to what you don't say. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Silence can feel uncomfortable. For many of us, silence triggers anxiety because we equate it with awkwardness or rejection. But here's the truth. Silence is only awkward if you let it be. When you embrace silence as a tool rather than a flaw, it transforms the way others perceive you. For example, Think about how silence works in storytelling. A dramatic pause can make the difference between a forgettable speech and an unforgettable one. That moment of stillness allows the audience to absorb the weight of what's just been said or to anticipate what's coming next. In Stoicism, this mirrors the concept of living with intentionality, where every action, every word has meaning. Silence in this context is not wasted time, it's deliberate space. You can apply this in your daily interactions. Let's say you're having a conversation with a friend and they share something personal. Instead of immediately responding with advice or your own story, what if you stayed silent for a moment? What if you let that silence communicate empathy, understanding, and presence? Chances are, your friend will feel more heard and appreciated than if you had jumped in with words. But silence isn't just about connection, it's also about influence. When you're silent, you're in control of how others interpret you. People project their own thoughts and feelings onto silence, which means they often perceive it as deeper or more meaningful than it actually is. This is why great leaders, negotiators, and even performers use silence to their advantage. They understand that silence creates space for others to think, to respond, and to engage. So how can you start using silence effectively in your life? Begin by paying attention to the moments when you feel the urge to fill the air with words. Ask yourself, is this necessary? Will my words add value, or am I speaking out of habit or discomfort? When you practice this mindfulness, you'll find that silence becomes second nature. You'll start to notice the power it has, not just over others, but within yourself. And here's something important to remember. Silence is a journey, not a destination. It's a skill you cultivate over time. And the more you practice, the more natural it will feel. You'll begin to see how silence can transform your relationships, your self-confidence, and even the way you approach life's challenges. Whether it's navigating Stoic relationships or simply pausing to reflect before speaking, silence will become your ally in every aspect of your life. Now, before we move on to the next part of this journey, let me ask you something. Are you finding value in these insights? If this video is resonating with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a number 1 in the comments to let me know you're enjoying this conversation. And if you haven't already, don't forget to hit that like button. It helps us reach more people who could benefit from these ideas. And of course, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next chapter of this transformative series. Your engagement is what keeps this community growing, and I'm truly grateful for each and every one of you. Let's continue exploring the incredible power of silence together. 3. Silence as a tool for self-mastery. Have you ever found yourself in the grip of an emotion, anger, frustration, or anxiety, reacting before you've had the chance to think? For many of us, this is an all too common experience. We're quick to respond, quick to defend, and quick to let our emotions take control. Yet, what if the solution to regaining that control isn't more action, but less? What if silence holds the key to mastering yourself? At its essence, silence is about creating space. It's a deliberate pause, a refusal to be swept away by the noise of the world or the storms within our minds. Silence isn't about passivity or avoidance, it's about intentionality. It's about choosing how to act rather than being ruled by impulse. In the philosophy of Stoicism, this concept is central. The Stoics teach us that while we cannot control the external events of life, we can control how we respond to them. Silence is the first step in that response. It allows us to pause, reflect, and then act with clarity and purpose. Without silence, we're at the mercy of our instincts and the chaos around us. With silence, we become masters of our actions. Think of a moment when you reacted out of anger or frustration, only to regret it later. Perhaps you said something hurtful to someone you care about, or you made a decision in haste that led to unintended consequences. These moments often arise because we act without pausing, without giving ourselves the chance to think. Silence offers us that chance. It interrupts the cycle of reaction, creating a moment of stillness where reason can take over. Imagine you're in the middle of an argument. Emotions are running high, and your instinct is to defend yourself, to prove your point. What if, instead of speaking, you stayed silent? What if you allowed yourself a few moments to breathe, to observe the situation without reacting. That silence would do more than just calm you. It would change the entire dynamic of the interaction. It would signal to the other person that you are composed, that you're not ruled by the heat of the moment. And in that calm, you gain the upper hand, not through dominance, but through restraint. Silence also gives you the ability to listen. In a heated conversation, it's easy to focus solely on what you want to say next, rather than truly hearing the other person. But when you choose silence, you allow yourself to absorb what's being said. You hear not just the words, but the emotions behind them. This kind of listening isn't passive, it's active and deeply intentional. It allows you to respond with empathy and understanding, rather than defensiveness or judgment. But silence isn't just for moments of conflict. It's a tool for every aspect of self-mastery. Consider how often our lives are filled with noise, literal and metaphorical. From constant notifications on our phones to the endless chatter of our own thoughts, we rarely give ourselves the gift of stillness. Yet in that stillness we find clarity. Take, for example, the practice of starting your day with a moment of silence. Before you reach for your phone, before you dive into your responsibilities, sit quietly. Use that time to reflect on your goals, to center yourself, and to set an intention for the day. This practice, simple as it may seem, can transform the way you approach everything. It shifts your mindset from reactive to proactive, from scattered to focused. Silence also helps us confront discomfort. Often we avoid silence because it forces us to face our thoughts and feelings without distraction. It's easier to fill the void with noise than to sit with our fears, doubts, or regrets. But this avoidance only keeps us stuck. When we embrace silence, we create the space to confront these emotions, to process them, and ultimately, to move through them. This is where the Stoic principle of self-examination comes into play. Marcus Aurelius, one of the great Stoic philosophers, often wrote about the importance of reflecting on one's actions and thoughts. In his meditations, he practiced a form of silent self-dialogue, asking himself questions about his motives, his values, and his reactions. This practice of silent reflection allowed him to align his actions with his principles, even amidst the pressures of being a Roman emperor. You can adopt a similar practice in your own life. At the end of each day, take a few minutes of silence to reflect. Ask yourself, what did I do well today? Where could I have been more patient or more thoughtful? What can I learn from the challenges I faced? These moments of reflection, grounded in silence, help you grow. They allow you to recognize patterns, to celebrate progress, and to address areas for improvement. Silence also cultivates resilience. Life is unpredictable, filled with moments that test our patience and resolve. In these moments, silence becomes a shield. When you pause before reacting, you create a buffer between yourself and the situation. This buffer gives you the strength to respond from a place of stability rather than emotion. Over time, this practice builds confidence, not in controlling the world around you, but in controlling yourself. In our relationships, silence can be a profound act of respect. When we choose to listen without interrupting, when we hold space for others to express themselves fully, we demonstrate that we value them. This is especially true in Stoic relationships, where mutual understanding and respect form the foundation. Silence allows us to connect on a deeper level, fostering trust and empathy. It's important to note that silence isn't about avoidance or suppression. It's not about ignoring problems or withholding communication. Rather, it's about creating intentional space for thought, for reflection, and for meaningful action. Silence isn't the absence of engagement, it's the foundation of mindful engagement. As you begin to incorporate silence into your life, you'll notice a shift. You'll feel more in control of your emotions, more intentional in your actions, and more connected to yourself and others. Silence will become a source of strength, a way to navigate life with clarity, composure, and purpose. So the next time you're faced with a challenging situation, pause. Take a moment of silence. Ask yourself, what's the best response here? What aligns with my values? How can I use this moment to grow? These questions, rooted in silence, will guide you towards self-mastery. In a world that often equates speaking with power, choosing silence can feel counterintuitive. But true power lies not in how much we say, but in how much we understand. Silence isn't a weakness, it's a strength. a deliberate act of self-control, and a commitment to living with intention. 4. Speaking through action. Actions speak louder than words. We've all heard this phrase, but how often do we truly embody it? In a world dominated by noise, endless conversations, social media updates, and verbal promises, our actions often take a backseat. Yet, actions have a language of their own, one that resonates far deeper than words ever can. This idea is at the heart of letting your silence speak louder than your words. When you act, rather than simply speak, you demonstrate integrity and authenticity. Words can be empty, they can promise change or commitment without delivering. But actions, they leave no room for doubt. They are tangible, visible, and impactful. When you allow your actions to do the talking, you create a narrative that is undeniable, one that inspires trust and admiration. Consider this. When was the last time you were moved by someone's quiet consistency? Maybe it was a friend who showed up for you time and time again without making a big deal of it. Maybe it was a leader who led by example, working diligently behind the scenes rather than boasting about their achievements. These are the people who leave a lasting impression, not because of what they say, but because of what they do. There's something powerful about someone who doesn't feel the need to explain themselves constantly, who doesn't seek validation through words. Instead, they let their actions reflect their values, their intentions, and their character. This is the essence of speaking through action. It's about aligning what you do with what you believe, letting your deeds demonstrate who you are. In Stoicism, this principle is deeply rooted. The Stoics believe that virtue is demonstrated through action, not merely through words or intentions. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, often reminded himself to act according to his principles, to embody the values he aspired to live by. It wasn't about proclaiming his wisdom, it was about living it. The same is true for us today. If we want to inspire others, if we want to lead meaningful lives, we must focus on what we do, not just what we say. Let's break this down into practical terms. How can you start speaking through action in your own life? First, think about your relationships. Whether it's with friends, family, or colleagues, ask yourself, are my actions aligned with my words? If you say you value someone, are you showing it? Are you making time for them, supporting them, and being present when it matters? Words can express love, but actions solidify it. In Stoic relationships, this alignment between words and actions builds trust and respect. Next, consider your goals. It's easy to talk about what we want to achieve, to say we're going to start that project, improve our health, or learn a new skill. But are you taking steps toward those goals? Silence, paired with consistent action, is often more powerful than grand declarations. When you quietly work toward your objectives, people take notice, not because you told them, but because they see the results. Silence also plays a critical role in conflict resolution. Imagine you're in a disagreement with someone. It's tempting to argue, explain, or to defend yourself with words. But what if, instead, you focused on actions that demonstrate your intentions? Maybe it's a gesture of kindness, an effort to meet them halfway, or simply showing patience and understanding. These actions speak volumes, often resolving conflicts more effectively than words ever could. Let's take this concept to a larger scale. Think about people who have changed the world through their actions. Figures like Mahatma Gandhi, Rosa Parks, or Mother Teresa weren't known for loud proclamations. They were known for their quiet, persistent actions that created ripples of change. Their silence wasn't passive, it was powerful. It showed that true strength lies in doing, not just in speaking. So how can you make this shift in your own life? Start by identifying areas where your actions could speak louder. Is there a promise you've made but haven't followed through on? Is there a value you believe in but haven't lived fully? Begin small. You don't have to make grand gestures, even small, consistent actions can create a profound impact over time. And here's the beauty of speaking through action. It's universal. It transcends language, culture, and barriers. It's a way of connecting with others on a deeper level, showing them who you are without the need for explanation. It's about being authentic, letting your actions reflect your true self. As we move forward in exploring how silence can speak louder than words, I'd love to hear from you. Are you resonating with these ideas? Have you experienced the power of actions over words in your own life? If you're enjoying this video, show your support by hitting the like button and dropping a number 1 in the comments. Your engagement helps us continue sharing these insights with more people. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. By subscribing, you'll stay connected with this journey of personal growth and wisdom, exploring how concepts like Stoicism can transform your approach to life and relationships. Thank you for being a part of this conversation, and let's keep moving forward together. 5. Silence and conflict resolution. Conflict is a natural part of life, but how we approach it defines our relationships and emotional well-being. Silence, when used intentionally, can transform conflict into an opportunity for understanding rather than escalation. Often when disagreements arise, our instinct is to react immediately, to defend ourselves, to assert our position, or to retaliate. Yet this quick response often adds fuel to the fire. Silence, on the other hand, creates a pause, a space to breathe, think, and reflect before acting. This pause interrupts the reactive cycle, allowing clarity and calmness to take the lead. Silence isn't about avoidance or surrender, it's an act of self-control and mindfulness. The Stoics emphasized focusing on what we can control, our emotions and actions, and silence embodies this principle. By choosing not to respond impulsively, we reclaim our power and maintain composure. Imagine being in a heated argument where the other person's emotions are running high. Instead of retaliating, you choose to remain silent, to listen actively without interruption. This silence shifts the dynamic. It conveys patience and restraint while giving the other person space to express themselves fully. It also creates a reflective moment for both sides, opening the door to de-escalation and understanding. Listening is one of the most profound gifts silence can offer during conflict. Too often, we listen to respond rather than to understand, missing the emotions and intentions behind the words. Silence forces us to focus entirely on what's being said, helping us connect with the other person's perspective. In doing so, we demonstrate respect and empathy, which can diffuse tension and foster collaboration. For instance, in a disagreement with a friend or colleague, listening silently can reveal the true heart of the issue, often something deeper than the words themselves. Silence also allows for reflection, both during and after the conflict. By pausing instead of reacting, we can evaluate our emotions, intentions, and goals. Are we trying to resolve the issue, or are we reacting out of pride or anger? This self-awareness enables us to respond thoughtfully, aligning our actions with our values. In workplace conflicts, for example, a moment of silence might help you realize that the disagreement isn't personal but stems from a misunderstanding. This clarity can guide you toward a constructive response rather than an emotional one. Another power of silence lies in its ability to set boundaries. When faced with someone trying to provoke or manipulate us, engaging often reinforces their behavior. Silence, in such cases, becomes a boundary, a refusal to fuel the conflict. It's not about ignoring the issue, but about maintaining control over your emotions and protecting your peace. This kind of silence speaks volumes, showing that you're not easily swayed by negativity. To use silence effectively, it's important to pair it with intentionality. Silence isn't just the absence of words, it's a space where listening, reflection, and thoughtful action can thrive. Practicing silence in conflict resolution means pausing before responding, focusing entirely on understanding the other person, and maintaining a calm presence. These choices foster mutual respect, trust, and the possibility of resolution. In the end, silence in conflict resolution is not about winning or losing. It's about creating a space for understanding, prioritizing relationships over arguments, and seeking solutions rather than victory. By choosing silence, we cultivate wisdom, patience, and self-control, qualities that lead to deeper connections and greater peace. The next time conflict arises, pause, reflect, and let your silence guide you toward resolution. Silence, after all, isn't empty. It's full of intention and strength. 6. The art of silence in relationships. Relationships thrive on connection and understanding, yet the role of silence in fostering these bonds is often overlooked. Silence, when used intentionally, creates a space for listening, empathy, and deeper connection. In conversations, the tendency to fill pauses with words can sometimes overshadow the importance of simply being present. When we choose silence, we allow others to express themselves fully, without interruption or judgment. Imagine a loved one sharing something personal or emotional. Instead of immediately offering advice or opinions, sitting silently and listening can make them feel truly heard and valued. In Stoic relationships, this kind of presence strengthens trust and deepens the bond between individuals. Silence is also a profound way to convey empathy. When someone is struggling, our instinct is often to comfort them with words. But sometimes, words aren't what's needed. Simply sitting with someone in silence, acknowledging their pain without trying to fix it, can be more powerful than any reassurance. Silence communicates solidarity, showing that you're there for them in a way that words cannot. Similarly, in romantic relationships, silence can create intimacy. Sharing moments of quiet together, whether it's watching a sunset, enjoying a meal, or simply sitting side by side, can bring a unique closeness that transcends verbal communication. In conflict, silence becomes a tool for self-restraint and resolution. Arguments often escalate because both sides are eager to defend themselves or make their point heard. Choosing silence in these moments is an act of self-control and respect for the relationship. It prevents impulsive reactions, allowing time for emotions to settle and thoughtful responses to emerge. For instance, in a heated disagreement, a pause can stop the conversation from spiraling into blame and instead open the door to mutual understanding. This kind of silence isn't about avoiding the issue, it's about creating space to approach it constructively. In professional settings, silence can be equally transformative. A person who listens more than they speak often exudes confidence and composure, earning the respect of colleagues. Silence allows you to observe and understand the dynamics of a situation, enabling you to contribute meaningfully when you do choose to speak. This practice also fosters trust, as people feel valued when they sense you are fully present and attentive to their words. To incorporate silence into relationships effectively, balance is key. Silence should not be a barrier to communication, but a bridge to deeper understanding. Practicing active listening, pausing before responding, and embracing shared moments of stillness are simple yet powerful ways to use silence. These practices cultivate connection by showing others that you value their presence and perspective. Silence, when used with intention, becomes a language of its own, one that communicates empathy, respect, and love. The art of silence in relationships reminds us that words, while important, aren't the only way to connect. In fact, silence often leaves a lasting impact, creating depth and authenticity in ways words cannot. It encourages us to be fully present with others, to listen deeply, and to act thoughtfully. Whether it's in moments of joy, conflict, or quiet companionship, silence offers a powerful path to building stronger, more meaningful relationships. 7. Actions speak louder than words. In a world saturated with noise and endless declarations, it's easy to overlook the power of quiet, consistent action. Words are often fleeting, easily spoken, but not always followed through. Actions, however, carry weight. They provide tangible evidence of our intentions, values, and commitments. Choosing to let actions speak louder than words is a form of silent communication that transcends verbal promises and builds trust, respect, and authenticity. Actions are the clearest expression of character. Think about the people you admire most in your life. Chances are, it's not their words that stand out, but their deeds. Perhaps it's a friend who shows up without being asked, a colleague who takes responsibility without seeking recognition, or a loved one who quietly supports you through life's challenges. These individuals may not make grand proclamations, but their actions demonstrate reliability, integrity, and care. In Stoicism, this principle is deeply rooted in the idea of virtue through action. The Stoics believe that what you do reflects who you are more than what you say. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about living according to one's principles, emphasizing that actions should align with values. For the Stoics, speaking about virtue was far less important than embodying it through consistent, purposeful deeds. This timeless wisdom encourages us to focus on doing rather than declaring. Consider a workplace setting. A leader who constantly talks about teamwork and collaboration but fails to lead by example loses credibility. On the other hand, a leader who quietly supports their team, takes responsibility for mistakes, and works alongside their colleagues earns trust and respect without needing to say much. Actions in this case not only communicate integrity but also inspire others to follow suit. In relationships, actions often define the depth and authenticity of the bond. Saying "I love you" is meaningful, but it's the everyday acts of kindness, patience, and support that truly demonstrate love. A partner who listens attentively, prioritizes your needs, and shows up during difficult times communicates love far more effectively than someone who speaks the words but fails to follow through. In Stoic relationships, this alignment between words and actions strengthens trust and fosters emotional security. Moreover, actions have the power to influence and inspire without the need for explanation. Consider historical figures like Mahatma Gandhi, whose philosophy of nonviolence was not just spoken but lived through peaceful resistance. His quiet, steadfast actions communicated his values more powerfully than any speech could. The same principle applies in everyday life. When you lead by example, whether it's through kindness, perseverance, or ethical choices, you inspire others to reflect on their own behavior and values. Silence enhances the power of action. When actions are not accompanied by self-promotion or excessive explanation, they speak for themselves. This approach cultivates humility and authenticity, qualities that resonate deeply with others. For instance, a person who donates to charity quietly, without seeking recognition, allows their actions to reflect their values without the need for validation. This quiet strength creates a lasting impression, showing that they act not for praise but because it aligns with their principles. The practice of letting actions speak louder than words also requires discipline and consistency. It's easy to make promises or declare intentions, but following through demands effort and commitment. This is where silence becomes an ally. Instead of focusing on talking about what you will do, channel your energy into doing it. Over time, your actions will build credibility, showing that your words are not empty but rooted in integrity. For example, if you set a goal to improve your health, speaking about it endlessly may create an illusion of progress without actual results. Instead, focus on taking consistent steps, eating healthier, exercising regularly, and prioritizing rest. Over time, the changes in your well-being will speak for themselves, demonstrating your commitment without the need for verbal affirmation. The same principle applies to addressing conflicts or challenges. Rather than explaining or defending your intentions repeatedly, let your actions resolve the situation. If trust has been broken, rebuilding it doesn't come from promises but from consistently showing up, being reliable, and acting with integrity. This approach demonstrates genuine effort and allows actions to repair what words cannot. It's important to recognize that allowing actions to speak doesn't mean avoiding communication altogether. Words still have their place, especially in clarifying intentions or expressing emotions. However, words should be used as a complement to actions, not as a substitute. When actions align with words, they create a powerful synergy that enhances credibility and trust. Incorporating this principle into your life starts with self-awareness. Reflect on whether your actions align with your values and intentions. Are you living in a way that reflects what you say you stand for? If not, identify areas where you can improve and take consistent steps toward alignment. This practice is not about perfection but about striving to act with authenticity and purpose. Another way to embrace this principle is by focusing on the impact of your actions rather than the recognition they receive. Resist the urge to announce every step you take or seek validation for your efforts. Instead, let the results of your actions speak for themselves. This humility not only strengthens your character but also creates a sense of quiet confidence. Finally, remember that actions, no matter how small, can create ripples of positive change. A kind gesture, a moment of patience, or a decision to stand by your values can influence others in profound ways. By consistently choosing to act with integrity, you contribute to a culture of authenticity and trust. In a noisy world where words often dominate, letting your actions speak louder is a quiet yet powerful statement. It's a way of showing who you are, what you value, and what you stand for without needing to explain or justify. Whether in relationships, at work, or in personal growth, actions rooted in intention and consistency have the power to create lasting impact. Focus on doing, and let the results be your voice. 8. The Stoic practice of silence. In a world that's constantly demanding our attention, where noise and opinions are unrelenting, silence has become a rarity and a superpower. For centuries, the practice of silence has been a cornerstone of Stoicism, a philosophy that emphasizes self-discipline, emotional resilience, and intentional living. Silence in the Stoic sense is not merely the absence of words, but a deliberate practice of control, reflection, and focus. It's about mastering the art of stillness, even when the world around you is chaotic. For the Stoics, silence was a tool for cultivating wisdom. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, often wrote about the importance of pausing before reacting, of reflecting deeply before speaking or acting. He believed that silence created the space to evaluate what truly mattered and allowed reason to guide decisions rather than emotion. In his meditations, Marcus encouraged himself to listen more and speak less, understanding that wisdom often comes not from what we say, but from what we observe and absorb in silence. How often do we rush to fill the gaps in conversation, to defend ourselves, or to share our opinions without truly thinking? Silence interrupts this reflex. It forces us to pause, to evaluate whether our words will add value or simply contribute to the noise. The Stoics teach us that speaking less and observing more is a path to greater clarity and understanding, not just of others, but of ourselves. Silence also strengthens self-control. In moments of anger or frustration, our instinct is to lash out or say things we might later regret. But when we practice silence, we create a buffer between stimulus and response. This pause gives us the opportunity to decide how to act rather than being driven by impulse. Imagine someone criticizing you unfairly. Instead of reacting defensively, staying silent allows you to process the situation calmly and choose a response that aligns with your values. This act of restraint is at the heart of Stoicism. But silence isn't only about holding back. It's also about listening. When you choose silence, you shift your focus from speaking to understanding. You become more attuned to the emotions, intentions, and nuances behind others' words. This kind of listening deepens connections and fosters empathy, qualities that are essential for building strong, Stoic relationships. By truly listening, you show others that their thoughts and feelings matter, creating a foundation of trust and respect. Silence also has the power to ground us in the present moment. In a world of distractions, practicing silence can be a form of mindfulness. It allows us to step away from the constant noise of our thoughts and surroundings and reconnect with ourselves. This stillness fosters clarity, helping us prioritize what truly matters and let go of what doesn't. Whether it's taking a moment of silence at the start of the day to set intentions or pausing in the midst of chaos to recenter, these practices anchor us in the now. Incorporating silence into your daily life doesn't require grand gestures. It begins with small, intentional steps. Start by setting aside a few minutes each day to sit in silence, free from distractions. Use this time to reflect, to breathe, and to simply be. You might also try practicing silence in conversations by listening more and speaking less, focusing entirely on the other person without planning your next words. These small shifts can have profound effects on your sense of peace, your relationships, and your ability to navigate life's challenges. As we explore the transformative power of silence, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Has this idea of silence resonated with you? If it has, I invite you to hit the like button and leave a number 1 in the comments to let me know. Your engagement helps us reach others who could benefit from these insights. And if you're finding value in this journey through Stoicism and intentional living, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. By subscribing, you'll be part of a growing community dedicated to mastering the art of living with purpose and resilience. The practice of silence is not just about staying quiet, it's about creating space for clarity, understanding, and intentional action. It's a powerful reminder that strength often lies not in what we say, but in what we choose to hold back. So as you move forward, consider how silence can become a tool in your own life. Use it to listen, to reflect, and to act with intention. Let your silence not just speak, but resonate with meaning and purpose. Silence is not merely the absence of words, it's the presence of intention, strength, and clarity. It's a tool that allows us to reflect deeply, act wisely, and connect authentically. In a world that often values noise over nuance, silence can be a radical choice, a choice that speaks louder than anything you could say. Through the lens of Stoicism, we've seen how silence can shape our inner world and transform our outer relationships. Whether it's mastering our emotions, resolving conflicts, building trust, or leading with quiet integrity, silence empowers us to live with purpose and resilience. It reminds us that true strength doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it's found in restraint, in listening, and in letting our actions speak. As you move forward, I encourage you to explore how silence can fit into your life. How can you use it to deepen your relationships, strengthen your self-discipline, or navigate challenges with greater composure? Remember, silence is not about withdrawing or avoiding. It's about creating space for what truly matters. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the transformative power of silence. If you found value in these ideas, consider sharing this video with someone who could benefit from a quieter, more intentional approach to life. And if you'd like to continue exploring Stoicism, self-mastery, and personal growth, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Together, we can build a community grounded in wisdom, purpose, and action. Let your silence speak louder than your words, and let it guide you toward a life of meaning and integrity. Until next time, stay present, stay intentional, and take care.